Hello, and welcome to another edition of the CantinaMX podcast. My name is John Jagu. Glad to have you with us. We are not live on YouTube as we would normally have been. We're still trying to figure a way out for us to do that for you here on the CantinaMX podcast. But nonetheless, you are a subscriber to one of our many podcast outlets, and you have had this downloaded directly to your device, and you're listening to this on your way to whatever it is that you do on Monday morning after a weekend of some wild and woolly LigaMX action. So we're happy that you're with us. Joining me as always, my partner in the gentleman's agreement, a man who only buys his breakfast tacos from Lady Taco de Canasta. Of course, I'm talking about Joel Aceves, who joins us from Irvine, California. Joel, how are you, sir?
Greetings, John. I'm doing very well, especially with seeing how the goats are doing. They're beginning to leave the bottom. I had told the lads at the Chivas of the North podcast, there's nowhere else left for Chivas to go. They're already hit rock bottom.
Primero que nada, hay que felicitar a Chivas porque ganaron bien. La neta, hay que dejarnos de tonterías.
It's true, and it's the season is playing out the way I kind of thought it would, and I'm sure how you thought it would. Tomás Boy is slowly. I mean, honestly, I know that the people look at his past coaching record, and it's not the best. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. I mean, it's not like he has, Ojitos Mesa type credentials or a La Puente or, a Avuse, someone who can do no wrong. But Tomás Boy has, since his playing days, is a guy who was supremely talented, has a huge chip on his shoulder, and frankly, we talked about it on this podcast. If Chivas can play with a chip on their shoulder, then they can do well. And Chivas isn't the kind of team that has hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on their salary, and frankly, their player pool isn't as wide as other teams, so they kind of have to, look for other intangibles to help them become a better team. And I think that having a certain kind of attitude is something that absolutely helps. I think Tomás Boy, in that sense, I think is a perfect fit for Chivas, because I think that eventually the players will start to emotionally, take on some of their coaches' traits.
And I think we're beginning to see that, John. And just to go on what you said, Tomás Boy nickname is El Jefe. They don't call you the boss just because. And I think that's the type of attitude that the players needed to have in a coach.
Especially at a place like Chivas, where there was just no leadership from anybody, from the canteranos, from the high priced signings, the veterans that were there. They just didn't have it. I know that a lot of Chiva hermanos are still upset of the Oribe Peralta signing. It's not he's not necessarily the he's been around a bit, but he's obviously a great big leader, and has influenced the locker room. I think we're seeing that with some of the other folks that have come in, folks that have been in those positions before, like Boyo Briseño, who was the captain of Mexico's U17 team. That's starting to rub off, and even the players are starting to rub off. A little bit on Tomás Boy. If I'm not mistaken, after the third goal, I think Oribe suggested to Tomás, "Hey, maybe you should do your little goal dance that you like to do when you're celebrating," and so it's now let's not get too ahead of ourselves, Joel. I mean, it wasn't as if they beat Atlético Madrid. They beat their filial.
They did.
Atlético San Luis, who are you look at that roster and I would pay someone $5 they could tell me where one of those guys played before they went to Atlético San Luis.
No, it's very true, but it's still, I would still celebrate just because you're beginning to see a turnaround. And even last season, Chivas was having difficulty beating those type of teams. They couldn't beat Veracruz. They lost to Puebla at home pretty handedly. So not only do you have the team finally scoring, like Chofi scored, and he hadn't scored in a year. Pulido granted they've been penalty kicks, but he's getting into that rhythm. Alexis Vega has been scoring. He had 2 goals in the cup, and he got a penalty kick. So you're beginning to see some of these players that were pretty lethargic. And not only that, this is Boy's third or fourth straight win at the Akron. And that was, one thing to rescue.
Sure.
Because as we saw the zombie life, even when Matias was there, they went a whole year a whole tournament without getting a home win. And so, we have to go to the archives now if we want to see the last time Chivas got 4 straight wins at home.
It has been a while, and no, you're right. Again, we're not gonna, as they say, we're not throwing campanas al aire here. But we are being a little realistic. But with Chivas now, it's not, we're not saying that Chivas is at, at that level yet. But they're getting better. They're at the Nat King Cole level, I think. So that's where Chivas are right now. They have 7 points, so that means that out of the 4 games, they've won 2, lost 1, and drawn 1, which is not a bad start, frankly. In LigaMX, as we know, a 3 or 4 game win streak can vault you from 13th to 3rd very quickly. So Chivas fans should be, I think they should be cautiously optimistic. If I were a Chivas fan, I would want my best players to start playing well, and I think that as you pointed out. Alan Pulido scores that penalty. I would much rather him, as a Chivas fan, score that penalty and then get a little confidence moving forward than to miss the penalty and just be totally rocked from here on out. I have no problem with Oribe starting, either, because, who would you rather have starting, Oribe Peralta or Alexis Vega, who hasn't really proven himself as a player at Chivas yet. So let him prove himself. If he supplants Oribe, that is not such a bad thing.
Well, and you know what, John? In the past, we've seen this mistake where Chivas threw a lot of young players. They put him in the starting role because they would have before they even won their position, they just threw him in there because they were going through a mini hot streak or they had that one good game. And then they would end up just not being able to
Sure.
not be able to, Carlos Fierro is one of them because he's been playing since he was very young. He was like 17, 18, and he was one of the players, even Marco Fabian back then. And it's like you went in without having to earn your spot or win it, which is like if we look at Chicharo, he had to win his spot. He had and he had Borghetti. He had Borghetti right there.
Right.
And I forgot who the other guy was, but there was 2 guys there that it could have been the guy that Vasco Aguirre took to Osasuna, Carlos. What was his name?
Oh, Carlos Ochoa. Carlos Ochoa, right?
Yeah, I think it was him. But he had 2 veteran players, and there was a couple other because you had that Pina Arellano, and at that point, Pina was
the Mexican Leo Messi.
He was playing even better. But Chicharo ultimately won his spot, and I think we're beginning to see that with Alexis, where he's beginning to win it. And we saw what happened the other season when they threw him in there, and he was just having a hard time.
Sure.
But I do think that the other thing is because there's been a lot of hate on Oribe from a lot of the Chiva faithful. They're doing the countdown on how many shots does he get or how many minutes. The very Mexican thing to do that we see with the Mexican media.
Let's trash the legend.
Let's trash him because he's not playing like we think he should. But the other thing is like you have a player like that the club brought him, and it's like he wasn't gonna come in to write the pine. You know, he got his contract, and obviously he was gonna be assured X amount of minutes or X amount of games.
Right.
I mean, at least we have to respect that. But I think at the same time, having someone like that in the field, it takes some of the pressure away from the other players. And someone like Pulido that before, they're beginning to loosen up and not have to carry that burden.
No, you are exactly right, Joel. And right now, like as we said, Pumas is on 7 points after 4 games, so they're in 6th place. So they are in the Liguilla zone with some of the usual suspects. Santos, who has started off the season on absolute fire, 4 wins in 4 games, 12 goals, 2 against. So they have a plus 10
Santos.
right now.
But John, we must point out the opponent Santos has faced.
Hey, that's and that's okay. But you know what? You have to win those games.
No, you do exactly. But I don't see them as strong as they look. And if you look at their mass fixtures, their whole calendar, they have a very good, a blessed road to the Liguilla. And I'm not hating on Santos. We've praised them before. We've talked about how they have a good model. How often they're fighting for a campeonato. But this team to me doesn't seem as strong as previous teams that they've had. It seems a bit weaker, and I could see them getting to Liguilla, but I could even see them finishing top 4 just on their calendario alone. But I could see them exiting early.
Santos in their 4 matches, they've beaten Guadalajara 3-0. They beat Juarez 3-0 and Atlas 2-1 before beating Puebla today 4-1. Now, 3 of those games also have been in Torreon, and
yes.
I'm not sure if you've been to Torreon in August and in July. It can be a little warm, and they also play their games at the absolute hottest time of day. Again, you have all these things in your favor. The scheduling is in your favor. You have a really good home field advantage that's in your favor. But unfortunately, what you have to do is you have to be able to suck the marrow out of those opportunities. And Santos has done that in spades. And at this point, with 13 games to go, they're a little under halfway home for getting the points necessary to be in the Liguilla. So they are definitely sitting pretty.
And their leading man, Furch, he's about to get his Mexican citizenship, and he's already put a signal to Tata to call him up, know. And I think personally, if he's on fire, why not? I think if a player is to quote the late great Longo, que momento. If you're going through a good moment, give him a shot,
Sure, yeah. If you're in a hot streak, there's no reason why you shouldn't want to do that. So I know that we have our friend Daniel Preciado, who's a big Santos fan, but I think that in his honor, when he does come on, when we talk Santos, we play a little Star Trek music for the Warriors. So when we play this, in Dan's honor for his guerreros that have started as well as you could start in any league when you go 4 wins out of the first 4 matches. In addition to that, Joel. You talk about Santos' schedule, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it is they're out of the next 5 games, they play Monterrey at home, and León on the road. They have Pachuca and San Luis and Necaxa. So, again, some winnable matches, and then the next 4, they have Veracruz, Pumas, Tigres, Tijuana. Again, some very very winnable games. and then they finish off the season with Morelia, Querétaro, América, Cruz Azul, Toluca. So they have 3 very tough games at the end when they could be already qualified for the Liga. Now that could be a kind of a double-edged sword, because as we've seen in LigaMX particularly, that if you might be top of the table the whole season, 1 or 2, whatever it is, but if you kind of run into some tough moments there toward the end of the season and lose a little of your momentum, then you don't have a very long stay in the actual postseason in the Liga itself.
We've seen also, I remember Daniel Travieso Guzman when he was coaching Cholos. Like the first half of the season, the Estadio Caliente was just, it was like if you had a game there, it was almost like you had already conceded defeat, at least for the first half, and they were going in strong, and still don't know what happened. Something went wrong, and after the first half of the season, they just crashed to the point that they missed out on the playoffs.
Right.
I don't think Travieso has recovered because we haven't seen him.
We haven't seen him since. No, that's a very.
He's still in hiding.
And to Santos's credit, Joel, I mean, this is a team that we've talked about on this show and have done. I mean, really nothing more than kind of sing their praises, just because they're a club that seems to get it as far as how they go about their business. Their GM says that we look at every year as a point in a 3 years. We want to be able to be extremely competitive, to have a really good chance of winning a title about every 3 years or so. And within the past 3 years, Santos has won that title. So I think that there might be a little bit early here, but this is again nothing new that Santos has done. Again, we pointed out some of the built-in advantages that they have. The other thing that Santos has done when they get off to starts like this is they usually don't let go. They're usually a pretty solid team throughout the season when they get on a hot streak like this. And but like you said, depending on how they end up, I do remember, I think it was in 2007, Santos was just rolling people left and right. And in the regular season, that was when Achita Ludueña was, they just won the title. They were just smoking out. They're just a really good team. And they played Pumas in the Liguilla, and Pumas, for whatever reason, scored 3 goals. 3 goals in the first 20 minutes, whatever it is, of the opening leg, and literally, white knuckle hung on the rest of the way. It was just a completely bizarre set of circumstances, and then Pumas ends up going all the way to the final, and unfortunately losing to Atlante. But Santos again is a team that since they came in the mid '90s. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a team that's been more consistent than they have.
Did they come? Did they return, or were they? They used to have a franchise.
I can't remember exactly which one it was, but they were kind of born in first division. But they did have a team. When I was a kid, they have that the area had a team Laguna that was terrible. I mean, they were just one of my first memories of watching any game was knowing that they were terrible. I remember the phrase "Y se salva la Laguna." So I thought, well, they just they were so bad that that divine intervention had to help them out. So I think that it was in the early '90s. I think that they bought a franchise and they moved it to Santos. I can't remember exactly who it was, but I think that is the case. But they haven't looked back. I mean, they have great fan support. I mean, I remember the old stadium they used to play in. That when they play those games at 4:00 or whatever it is on Sunday, man, that place was rocking. It was intimidating as hell, and they get good crowds there in Torreon. So very happy to see Santos playing well, but frankly, completely not surprised that they are. So once again, a tip of our hat to our friend Daniel Pesada, and I hope Joel for Daniel's sake that he's wearing his either medium or large Santos shirt right now instead of the double X. So hopefully hopefully that
he
will
has
be the
been he
case.
has been exercising
Yes,
due to
exactly.
his coaching duties.
That's exactly right. Oh, you're absolutely right. He is. He's definitely. Hopefully, we'll hear from Profe tonight. He said that he has a good chance of coming on. Well, Joel, we should probably we've talked Chivas, we've talked Santos, we've talked the leader, we talked the novela team. We should probably talk about Toluca and America, Joel, because when we were putting our show together, we were thinking, that game is as close to a clásico as there is, and it probably should be, but for some reason, no one ever wants to call it. And if you ever talk to our resident Americanista on the show, Ron De Luna, when you bring up Toluca defeats, he gets angry, and he gets angry over those than he does anything else, which I find very interesting. There's a lot of, I look at it. I look at hate for a team like if you could describe it as some sort of object that lives in your body. Like I think of the, just like this festering, huge red, just uncontrollable thing that just lives inside of you. Or you could have like that tiny, just extremely powerful but very small, like 1,000 pounds of pressure compacted little black, bitter black ball of rage that lives, in your absolute core of your body. Those are the two different kinds of hate that you can harbor for a team, and I think that Americanista fans have the bitter black ball of rage for Chivas, because it's a. But I think I have to have the festering hate for Toluca. We'll have to ask an Americanista to verify.
Well, you know what, John? I am trying to get off topic here, but I think with LigaMX, they don't do a very good job of promoting rivalries. They
only promote three.
Yeah, they seem stuck on those three, and they think the others can't. I remember for a while, Vergara was starting this pretty intense rivalry with Pumas. It was pretty fun, man. Even that band Molotov jumped in and made a song. And they were doing billboards, and then it just sort of went away when he stopped doing it. But I think the press never even picked up on that.
Right. And
it's like, if you're Chivas, it's like you're only allowed to be rivals with
So there was
Atlas in America.
There was a lot going into this match, Joel. So we have the the master and the pupil with La Volpe and Piojo Herrera. So we have and then at some point the student has become the master because he's had some success against him. So we have that. Giovanni makes his first. I couldn't think, Joel, for a guy who's never played professionally in Mexico, to make your first start as a professional in Toluca. I mean, could you think of a worse place?
The Devil's Cauldron, yes, even higher altitude than Mexico City.
Exactly. I mean that to me was just a very unfortunate spot for. I mean, I'm sure Giovanni was like, "Oh my God, this is ridiculous." He'll get used to it, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's tough to adapt. I'm sure he's going to be better for it though in the long run. But things don't seem to be going well for La Volpe this season, huh? I don't think his Devils have won a match.
Toluca is. We're gonna take a look here. They are not. They are not doing. There's only one team, Joel, that is doing worse than Toluca right now, and that's Veracruz.
Oh man.
Yeah. So Toluca has drawn one and lost three. So not the best of starts for Toluca, but they go on a 3-game win streak, which again a team that has the tools and the tangibles at their disposal to do so.
But they haven't invested like it's been a while since we've heard of any signings coming in there, any top signings or any big name going into Toluca. And then I know they were working their youth. Not sure if Juan Real is still with them, and having La Volpe will make sense if you're trying to promote younger players, and that could take a while if you have if you're gonna bank on the youth. It could take a season or two to
Sure. Well, I mean, as
polish
long
those
as
gems.
they're committed to doing that, then that's great.
Yeah, so we'll see then. We'll see
Exactly.
then because La Volpe could very well be the first in the chopping block.
Nah. No,
think
whoever's
so?
coaching Juarez is gonna. I
I mean, it's already, it's technically, I would say not technically, usually by match week 5, match week 6, we have the first of the coaches that
coach decapitation.
get sent. Yeah. And La Volpe seems top of that list right now.
Well,
Unless Toluca's committed to a project with
right.
him.
Which I would hope that they would be. I mean, that's coach.
Yeah, I don't think they're in relegation problems. I don't think they're.
And again, they'll be fine. Let them. But as far as the sign is, you're absolutely right. I was thinking about that today actually, because aside from Cardoso, who obviously was just outside of Picolín, the greatest player in LigaMX history. They had Mancilla, and they had a couple. I mean, so the strikers have always been there. They're like Santos. They do really well with the strikers that they get. And
they would have some Chilean or other Paraguayan internationals in the team.
Yeah, no, they've always had a very strong team like that, and yeah, for whatever reason, I mean, they have, not anyone you're like, oh wow, that's going to be, pretty intimidating. They just, maybe that guy, it was Pardo, I think his name is, will play himself into that, but hasn't happened yet for Toluca. Now another team, Joel, that was.
Wait, John. Before we jump, who does Toluca face next?
Well, let's have a look. So.
And they were at home, so I imagine they go on the road.
Yeah, things do not get easy. Well, they don't necessarily get too much easier. They have to play.
Man.
They have Monterrey in the Tamalera next week, and then they have Tijuana, Necaxa, Pumas. So.
Yeah, it's a bumpy uphill. It's an uphill battle for El Bigotes. I don't know, man. I don't know, John. I hope Toluca's committed to their youth program.
You think patience will run thin in the land of the chorizo?
I think they've shown it because they did it with Cristante.
He did make a final. So like I said, I think that Toluca, Joel, is one of the more patient teams in LigaMX, and they. I just don't see them pulling the trigger.
Yeah, because I know they invested on their stadium. I don't know if that took some of the money. They put a lot of money during their centenario not too long ago.
It's funny you mentioned that, Joel. I was watching on, I don't know if you have Amazon Prime, but if you do, I highly recommend just searching FIFA, and you can watch all the official World Cup films from previous World Cups.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so I watched 1970 today. Just an absolutely outstanding documentation of a tournament. I mean, they almost went through every game except a couple of group stage games, but like game for game. And I got to tell you, Joel, seeing the stadiums the way they were, it was kind of sad. But kind of also like, oh man, that was a really nice looking stadium. But seeing just like where the Jalisco was, like back then, which is like out in the middle of nowhere, and of course now it's like in the thick of town, and the Azteca the same way, and the stadium in León and Puebla, it was pretty cool. And like I said, I think that the actual documentation of the tournament itself was really good. So I highly recommend watching those. It was. Very interesting. Oh, sorry. As you were saying, back about Toluca.
Well, just that it seems like they just haven't invested much. So, not sure what's going on there. We would have to do some research.
Well, you think it was because of the fact that they renovated their stadium that they kind of had to pump the brakes on player movement just to kind of get back into the black a little bit because they had to extend themselves on the stadium.
Just going off the top of my head, that could be one of the things. The other one is, whoever's financing Toluca, how's it going with their prime business,
Did they have they called you yet, Joel, for your advice at Toluca?
No, not yet.
Is that one of the teams you consult?
I'm still waiting for a Mauri's call.
Yeah, he hasn't blocked you on Twitter yet, has he?
No. He
Right.
hasn't blocked. No.
But do you go looking for trouble for? No, I guess you can't because
No, I never. Yeah, I never did.
He's not branded with the sign of the devil.
I cracked a joke. The guy that blocked me, and I made a joke, and I think it wasn't even distasteful. Was Carlos Albert, and I was like, damn, I didn't even attack that guy. I just cracked a joke. Higuera did block me, and I did go. I was pretty vociferous there. Said some not so nice things, and then
Can I venture to guess with what it was that you said? I think it was
You, you're cool, and I'm out.
Well, let's hope it doesn't come to that.
so.
yeah, and Mati, I wrote some stuff, but then he was cool, and then after that, I've just,
Mati responded to you on Twitter.
No, but he never blocked me despite my early criticism.
So you would criticize him directly?
I called him a cara rota, and it's in Argentina it's like a saying for someone that's like you're a thief.
Oof.
Like if they call you a cara rota, it means you're like a shifty character.
Dang.
This was because when he was claiming he didn't know that when he arrived to Guadalajara that Chepo was still coaching. Like he tried to say I didn't know, which I call BS. And I missed an interview with Chepo, and I can't find it, where he said that he was aware for a week that they were trying to get rid of him, which collaborates with something that I heard from someone that worked at Chivas. A Chihuahua guy that tweeted.
How uncomfortable that must have been for Chepo, where, for a whole week he's walking into rooms where people just come to a dead, just stop talking because he walks in.
Well,
for a whole week. I mean, I'm sure he caught on after a week of that.
To an extent, yeah, but I also think he had a really good contract where it's like you're getting $3 million,
Yeah, obviously it was a very nice because
here's your severance package.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's your $3 million, a case of Chihuahua Cola, and I don't know, some Omni Life supplements.
And a year subscription to Chivas TV.
I think it sucked just because he likes to work and the type of professional. But at the same time, I was like, hey, you're going to pay me 3 years, 2 years worth of,
So, Chivas TV, Joel. Chivas TV in the U.S.
Yeah, what about it?
Can they get 100,000 views for people paying $10 a pop?
Probably, but I'm like, I wonder how much that would, because you make good money that way, but at the same time, it's like, if you're a sponsor, that's not a lot. That's
not.
Or rating,
especially for that team. Or that's the thing, or is the trade-off? Do you get the?
That's what I'm wondering, because you don't want to go from within the U.S. they get about 1 million, 1.5, 2 million, maybe. I'm guessing.
Right. And here's
to go to 100,000.
Here's my thing about Chivas. I know that it's nice. That Caliente is their shirt sponsor. That's great. Whatever. Why on earth wouldn't they get a sponsor that has a stake in both countries?
Well, I mean, they've had like Coca-Cola, Pepsi.
Well, I'm talking about their main shirt sponsor. And just, and Chivas, frankly, Joel, I know we make fun of them, but let's face it, Chivas is the most talked about team in LigaMX, which means that they get the team that gets the most publicity.
Yeah. Well, America beat them to that because they have Home Depot.
Well, I get that, but they also have a whole bunch of other stuff. But you're right, though. Exactly. America has Home Depot. America learned their lesson because they had the Huawei a few years ago, and that was only for Mexico. And they're like, we got to have something for both. And they also have AT&T for both.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It makes. Oh yeah, America, man. They've been running a tight ship there. Has to be said.
They have certainly, because of, as much as we talk about how much Santos has modernized, and they're and how the Monterrey teams have done, but I can't believe I'm going to say it, Joel.
You go wash your mouth after this. John.
Thank you. But it is after the Michel Bauer catastrophe, and then with Peláez coming in, and this is with Santiago Baños, but has there been a better run team in Liga MX over the past couple of years than America? There just hasn't.
Yeah, I just really, honestly, I mean, you probably had Monterrey during the Buse era.
You know how it feels like, Joel, when we have to make that kind of acknowledgement of a team that you don't necessarily have have you ever tried to like hold yourself from throwing up, right? And you know it's coming, and some of it sneaks out and gets in your nose.
Yeah,
that's how it feels like for us talking about this right now.
Oh man, well, praise yourself, John. Oh. Yeah, we could say the two Monterrey teams come close, but America's really the full package because not only are they debuting, they're bringing out the good canteranos, like quality players, and bringing in good foreigners. They're also making a lot of money selling abroad.
Yeah, they're. I mean, it is just a complete, and they have with the good sponsorship deals. They've toned down their uniforms a little bit as far as the crazy on the sponsors and also the design. So no, it's and then
the other one was they kind of put an end to that whole. If you're sending a player to Europe, you have to send them cheap.
Right.
No one's saying anything right now, but they've sold for a good price where they don't have to lose money, which I don't think any club should have to lose money.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, they've made, and it's not just the Mexican players that they've sold. I mean, they obviously sold the Marchesín and Mateos. So I mean, they. I think I could just. Hey, Chihuahua! I mean, seriously, it's just No, I mean they've they have a good coach. They have a good system that they've obviously put in place. They're marketing themselves well. They're positioning themselves well, and like you said, they've been able to. And the other thing they've done, Joel, which I think is very interesting, is that they are bringing back the Mexican superstars.
Yeah, they got that too now.
And that's something that they're obviously. Hugo Sanchez is from Pumas, but he played how many years did he play with America? Disgusting. You know how disgusting that was.
Well, also Luis Garcia.
They asked Hugo about that.
Me estoy avergonzado.
I mean, yeah, I would be too, Hugo. Man, why'd you have to bring that up, Joel?
I don't know, man. We have to give their just due, man. Let it be known that at Cantina we give everyone a fair shake.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I dropped that on you tonight. So
no.
Although I did. Have you seen have you watched the entirety of the Taco Chronicles yet, Joel, on Netflix?
No, I've only seen the first.
The Pastor. Oh, that one is.
Yeah, the Mexico City one.
I've never drooled so much watching an episode of anything more than I did watching that Pastor. And it's funny because I watched it with my sister, and she actually, I mean, I left when I was really young, so I didn't get to experience any of the quote unquote formative years in Mexico. My sister did. She graduated from high school in Mexico City, so she got to, kids are treated a lot more like adults at a much younger age in a country like Mexico. So she got to experience some of that. And there was a part in that Pastor documentary where they say, and the only way to have a pastor is you got to be standing up. She goes, "That's right." It cracked me up.
You know what got to me was they were talking about how you stop there if you're going to the airport.
Right.
It's like a mandatory stop. And the America guy that, it's kind of how he broke the news that he was going to Ajax.
Did he do it at that taqueria?
Yeah, it was a tweet from the taqueria where he stopped to say goodbye. Not a tweet, it was an Instagram post.
Really? That's something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, this is before going to Ajax. He needed, he wasn't going to get none of that.
Oh, no.
In Holland, so load up on El Pastor before.
They do have a
to
couple
the Netherlands.
They do go to LA a couple times in the.
Yeah, I noticed. I wanted to see if there's anything close.
In the carne asada one and in the guisado one. So, but the tacos de canasta was I was unfamiliar with so it was very 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 interesting. Anyway, definitely, we're recommending that, and we're recommending the FIFA official World Cup films, which are fascinating. Joel, we had the English Premier League started this week, and it looks like just as it has been, there's going to be a couple teams dominate, and there'll be everybody else. And this year, it looks like again it'll be Liverpool and Manchester City. But Manchester City blew up Chicharito's poor little hammers, 5-0.
He didn't. Did he play? I know he started in the bench.
He played, and I mean, there was possession is 90-10 or whatever. It's very difficult.
Was he a starter though?
No, he came off. He came off the bench, but he did play. He's wearing number 9 now. So
I remember that. That's when you knew he was staying. Because there was still rumors of teams being interested in him from Spain, and next thing you know, they're introducing the new numbers.
If he wasn't such a chiva, it wouldn't shock me if America made a move for him too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I keep saying it. They've already been working on that. I know they've been already trying to woo Carlos Vela.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, they've talked to him already, and I think it's up to him.
Right.
Who knows? He could very well just retire at Galaxy because he's so comfortable. There's no need for him to move.
I think Chicharito has a future in television, but I think his future in television is going to be in this country.
In the U.S.
Yep. Because he speaks English, and I think that this country is dying to have an English-speaking, extremely well-known
I did not think
Mexican
of that.
soccer player to be on there.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's face it. Now he's not Cantina good looking, but he's a decent looking guy.
Yeah, you're right. So we'll see what happens there. So team got washed.
They got whooped. They got whooped.
But with Raúl, they stole a point.
They did. They had a couple of chances to to win. They actually scored a goal, but VAR took it away, and rightly so. And so yeah, and then Morel had a couple of decent chances that he didn't get in. And, it's funny. I know that people always, and I'm sure all fans do this, but just complain bitterly about, well, he had 2 chances and he didn't score. It's like, well, you know what? That's why games are 1-0. But in that FIFA World Cup from Mexico 1970, they were talking about how bad Brazil was in England. Of course, they were talking about how badly they got hacked. But they said, they said Pelé, who failed in England, was he going to fail again? Like the very first thing you see of Pelé is like him missing an open net. So it does happen. It does happen.
Well, John, correct me if I'm wrong, but and going off of that whole hacking that Brazil got in '66, that was when after that they introduced the card system, right? For 1970.
That is correct.
Yes, because I think Pelé had threatened not to play. He's like, I'm not coming into this hack fest,
Right.
If they're just going to allow teams to just beat the shit out of me.
Exactly.
I don't blame it.
So we had that happen, and then today, and man, I need to start. Oh, there it is. So today, Joel, we had Manchester United played Chelsea, and they just put a vicious whooping on them, beating them 4-0 this morning.
Have you ever seen such cruelty?
And
it was the coach, right? It was his first go-around.
It was Frank Lampard's first game in the Premier League.
Oh, man.
And Chelsea were very unlucky. They had they hit the post a couple times in the first half and just had some chances. Christian Pulisic came off the bench, and it was Chelsea be fine, he'll be fine, but not the best of starts for Chelsea. Now they do have the VAR in England for the first time this year in the Premier League, and for whatever reason it's like England it seemed like their fans are just absolutely horrified by it until their team benefits, and then they're like thrilled with it, as just like it was in the World Cup. But there was one Joel that had a 3-minute delay, and they decided that it was Raheem Sterling's arm was his 3 millimeters of his shoulder were offside, and they determined that a goal was disallowed from that. Joel, if you're gonna have VAR, you cannot take 3 minutes to make a decision. You just can't, unless you see something that clearly represents a decision either one way or the other, that you can make. Then other than how the play was judged, it has to stand. You cannot waste 3 minutes looking at every angle, frame by frame, because you've obviously determined at that point what you've done is that you've made up your mind and you're just looking for the evidence to prove your point.
I saw your tweet, John, from earlier.
Yeah.
1 minute. If you can't decide in 1 minute.
Yeah. I think 90 seconds. I think is more than reasonable, because you only have like 1 or 2 and a half anyway. So it's really not that much. Yeah, but you can't do the 3. You can't do the 3 minutes. And I also do think, and I think this is where Martina and I differ, is that a coach should be able to if VAR didn't do something like think of the Brazil-Argentina match, where there was a clear penalty in an Argentina that the VAR didn't even call the ref over to look at. And I don't think anybody at home even saw a replay of what happened. So I think in a situation like that, I think a coach has the right to, hey, I want y'all to look at that. I want the referee to look at that.
And you think once?
And just do
once per half?
No, once per match. Once per match. Period.
Only once per match. So use it wisely.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I've ever asked you, what is your overall opinion and assessment of the VAR? How do you feel about it?
Oh man, I do think it's that's a good question. No, there are instances when you wanna have the VAR just so that, like the whole no era penal, going back to 2014, which pretty sure would have showed that it was indeed a penal.
Right.
But you want stuff like that. I do think with VAR, Argentina could have won that. Or at least they would have been better poised to have won the World Cup at 2014. There was a one penalty. I don't know if you remember Agüero going into the box. He gets brought in like right at the edge, almost coming in.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
against Germany.
Yeah. So I mean, I do think we've seen some injustices, and with football, I mean, it's not like most of it, especially national team football. It's not like you're gonna get next season.
Right.
It could be 4 years, and 4 years could turn into 12, into so on and so on.
Into
and
36 years, like
into,
Peru.
Yeah, which Ireland was the one against France, that qualifier.
Right.
Going into 2010, and it was messed up. So yeah, in that sense, I think it's warranted. It is needed. It could make a good difference. And then we're beginning to see the ugly side, where people are beginning to say that it's going to be used to take advantage.
But I'm not sure what it is that they're going to take advantage.
Well, just people just like to complain.
Well, there's definitely no shortage of that.
Well, just real quick. Well, maybe not using it, but not using it. As you said, there are instances where the ref won't even go to it, and then that just goes to how you think it should be modified. Which I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I mean, there's just situations where you just want to be I'm not saying that you want to get a favorable result, but you just want to be absolutely sure. It's like, hey, wait a second, that looked like, clear as day. Like in the Pumas Tijuana match, there was a play that it did go to our, but it looked like, how many times have you seen in a VAR where you think something looks like one thing, and it ends up being, and then they decide the other way. It's like that always makes me a little. But no, what I will say about VAR is that the only way it can work well, I think, is if the referees that are watching the video and then their communication with are at the site. They can't go to some like central headquarters. I think that's just a terrible way to decide those things. So it's just my personal opinion on that. It's because well, I really can't frankly discuss it, but not my particular choice. Well, we are recording.
But you are pro VAR.
Oh, there's no question I am, and
Yeah.
and I mean but the other thing I do think is that you can decide fairly quickly if unless, and again, you can look at if the first four angles aren't showing you what you're looking for, whatever it is that you're trying to find, then the next four aren't going to show it either. So make up your mind pretty quickly. And I think that with VAR, as long as the evidence is indisputable, then yeah, make the decision. But when it gets into the gray areas where you can't decide, I can't tell if this guy's offsides or not, but they didn't call him offsides, then guess what? He ain't offsides. If you can't make the decision, then don't make a decision. And I think that's the area of the VAR that needs to be improved. And they
Worked for me.
I mean, I was watching the Copa America, but they had like 9 minutes of stoppage time, and that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And it was because the VAR was taking 3 and 4 minutes. Again, if you're taking that long, then you're looking for a reason to change the call. So that is my my own little 2 cents there on VAR. All right, we have a big week coming up in LigaMX. León had a bye week, and
They did.
After the bye week, León has Chivas.
Uh-oh. Hello?
Yes, they have Chivas next.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I'm a little worried. I do see León as being favorites, especially they're playing at home.
It'll be on it'll be on TV for the Chivas fans because it's.
And it will be on TV, so that's the positive. But I think if Chivas, at least, they should be able to bounce back. I think they have Necaxa. They host Necaxa afterwards. And Necaxa has been one of those teams that hasn't been doing too well. So I think, it'd been interesting to see how they do against León. They did do well against Tigres, but that was at home. So we'll see. We'll see how much boys' team is progressing because they've been slowly improving. Despite all the flack they're getting.
Sure.
They've been slowly improving. So it's one of the big games I would say for Chivas. You're playing the runner-up.
They have a talented team. I mean, Chivas they have players. They have horses in that stable. There's no reason why people should be surprised if Chivas is playing well. So, and really the other big match of the week, Joel, would be Monterrey receiving Toluca on a primetime Saturday night.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. That could be La Volpe's farewell party. Especially when they get crushed, man.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
You doubt it?
If they lose like 7-0, I could see it. But I mean, Monterrey's been struggling too. They did get a very late winner from Miguel Layún over in Tierras Purépechas in Morelia. So Monterrey, they need to get off the schneid too. So that one is probably the highlight of it. And then of course Veracruz, Joel, will hope to continue their 30-game non-winning streak when they visit,
that's pretty sad, man.
They visit Mexico City and play Pumas.
They had released the presser before the Atlas game, talking about how they want to, they're aware of the slump. They want to make the city proud again, and they end up losing. Which game was it? John, my mind is failing me. Where a player had a penalty kick and he gets injured.
It was Veracruz. It was against Atlas. They were up 1-0. It was Kazim Richards. He misses he misses the penalty, and then whether or not he's injured or not, I mean he's lying on the ground, in agony. They had to stretcher. I mean, to the point where they had to stretcher him off, and sub in for him. So.
Oh man, that's just that's pretty sad. So I mean, ouch. Veracruz would have been better off in Segunda, man. Just take your time. You could be back in a year or two. But no, they're right here. Just
it's as long as I've been paying attention to LigaMX, Veracruz is just one of those fringe teams that is just they can't ever seem to.
Man, poor Pirata, man. Yeah. That guy must be rolling in his grave.
Yeah, so they've won titles. It's not like they're one of the original LigaMX teams, and they won they've won 2 first division titles. Of course, the last one was in 1950. So if as much as we might like to make fun of Atlas, Joel, I think that we might have to start.
They beat him by a year.
Diverting some of that attention toward. Exactly.
Veracruz did win, I think, Copa MX.
Well, I think Atlas has won a Copa MX too, haven't they?
No, not since it was relaunched.
Interesting. I thought that they had. Anyway, so those are the compelling matchups there for the for LigaMX, and we'll see if
Veracruz. Who do they go up against?
Pumas.
Oh, well then, yeah, if you're Pumas, you're coming out of a 2-game losing streak. I mean, you're coming from a 2-game. I think that's the guy, man. You could kick Santa Cruz while they're down.
Yeah, no, I mean that's it's an absolute must-win for Pumas to get off their.
And it's in Seoul.
It's in Seoul, where they've beaten Veracruz
Okay.
8-0 before in Seoul, so hopefully they can string up another one. Now, one team that we should probably mention, Joel, before we get off the air here tonight is Querétaro, who
Yes. King Midas.
who have 10 points and got a super duper late winner to beat Pachuca over the weekend, and they're in second place, so they are just a couple points behind as they have 3 wins and a draw, and it's King Midas who's getting it going once again.
Yeah, they definitely have to be the surprise team, more so than Santos, just because, man, it's Querétaro. They didn't bring any big names, and it's mainly just, I would pin it down to really excellent coaching from Vucetich, who I'm surprised he's at Querétaro. He should be at a bigger club.
Querétaro is right smack between Guadalajara and Mexico City, so it's in a good geographic location. You know, they have a clásico with León, el clásico del Bajío.
Yeah, see, going back to what I was saying, they just the LigaMX really needs to promote this more. They need to go out of their way and promote these clásicos more, and so people could start seeing them as such. And then you have more heated games. They become better.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've long said that LigaMX needs to aggregate their TV contracts, and if they ever do that, then one thing they can do, like you said, is to promote these.
Yeah, I covered the Argentine league in the early 2000s for Goal.com, and pretty much every match was a clásico.
Well, sure.
Pretty much every game, I was like, "What, this clásico too?" And it's like Oprah, you get a clásico, you get a clásico. Every because especially if you're, they're crosstown rivals pretty much. Given how close a lot of these teams are, but LigaMX does have the history, and there is a history there.
There is. I mean, I think America plays the most clásicos because they play one against Guadalajara, they play one against Cruz Azul, one against Pumas, and I think that I think that we should probably include Toluca in there.
Yeah.
For them, and then Tigres has their clásico against Monterrey, obviously, and then they probably have one against Pumas too. Because of at least they used to with when they had stronger university affiliations, we'll say. And obviously Guadalajara has the America and they have the Atlas. They would have UDG if UDG was still in the league. And frankly, UDG is a very popular team in Guadalajara.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to see them back in LigaMX again at some point. If only to see their unbelievably good uniforms. Just a great looking uniform I've always liked the black, the yellow, and the red stripes. I mean that is a good look. Very identifiable, very smart. You look at Cruz Azul and it's like, is that Chelsea or Cruz? Oh, it's Cruz Azul. They look exactly alike. So good for, Joel, I'll leave you with this thought. We talked about how great America has been. I can't believe I brought it up again. I'm sorry. But,
great and America in the same sentence.
Yeah. But the one thing they have, they've brought back a look of one of their former uniforms. One of their more iconic uniforms. But their most iconic uniform with the kind of half the baseball shirt with the blue and yellow kind of stripes on the arms and the big triangle down the chest uniform that they have, that is by far their most iconic uniform. And then the fact that they haven't brought back a design like I think Memo Ochoa wore a goalie sweater that was kind of in that design for a couple of games, but that is really if they wanted to make the the transformation, the complete, going from the empire to the first order is when they, bring back that shirt, say, let's not forget who we are.
Well, speaking of Memo, he hasn't debuted with.
He had passport problems, which tend. I mean, how do you have passport problems? Well, yeah, going back into your own country. Well, I'll tell you what happened. He let his Mexican passport expire. Is what he did.
Oh man!
Because he was thinking he was going to get.
This reminds me of the London Donovan commercial where he's trying to sneak into Mexico.
Oh, to buy the lottery tickets.
That was brilliant. I could see Memo trying to sneak back into Mexico.
Yeah, so he'll make his debut probably, if not next week, then the week after. I forgot to we didn't talk about that, and I'll ask you, Joel, and we'll wrap up with this. Was Memo's career in Europe, would you consider it a success or not a success?
Oh man, I'm in the fence with that. I can't. If I say it's not because of his performances, because whenever he started, whenever he played, he delivered. And if you guys check Twitter, to this day, La Liga's Twitter will post Memo's best saves. Like why? Because I don't get why they do that, but they love putting them. He just had the bad luck, or I would say the misfortune, of not playing in a better team, and nothing against Standard, but we definitely thought he was gonna be in at least mid-tier team in La Liga or even EPL.
Right.
So that in that sense, it does feel like it was what do you call it, John?
Well, I call it snake bit.
No, snake bit. You were saying if it was a
success or not a success.
Yeah, in that sense, you could kind of, but I would just say it's just not, maybe not having a better agent,
right?
And the mistakes he made with moving when he moved, that made it difficult for him to secure a European Union passport.
Yeah, I think that was probably his biggest setback was not having that passport, so that the teams were never going to use. Goalies just don't go for very much, and because they're, there's a lot of goalies.
Yeah, so it was never lack of talent or not being able to compete at that level. He's shown it at the highest level, which is you could say the World Cup, arguably right up there with Champions League.
Sure.
And he's proven it, that he could go up against the best of them. So it was just the fact that you could say it was not a success, but he got to live in some really nice places.
Yeah, he did.
He can't begrudge that.
Well, that's the thing. Is it, did he have success? As far as achievements with the team, did he win championships or trophies? What is it? And the answer is no. Did he achieve personal success in playing consistently for the better part of 8 years in foreign lands, and like you said, getting to live in Corsica, which I don't know if you remember, I think Medio Tiempo or maybe it was Televisa did a story on, and here's Memo's house, and he's living on the coast. He's got this
beachfront property.
Exactly. No, even better, up on a cliff, just this unbelievable ocean view of and that's where he I can't remember if he was renting or if he bought, whatever it was. It was a really nice place. I was like, he's really suffering in a hot show, getting to live in a place like that. And then he gets to go to Malaga, which is on the Costa del Sol, just this absolutely beautiful city, and Granada, and then Liège. Belgium may not necessarily be as sexy as as Corsica or southern Spain, but Belgium's got is not a bad little spot either. There and yeah. So I think on a personal and a professional in the sense of him being a professional athlete, I think it was a huge success. That he got this, he fathered 3 kids while he was over there. He grew his family. He got to live, like I said, in amazing places and played and proved himself. He unfortunately on the business end of it, I think, some mistakes were made, and I think it prevented him from making that gigantic leap into one of those teams, because they're not going to waste their resources on.
And Standard did want him to stay.
Yeah, they did.
They wanted him to stay, but I mean, Televisa drove a dump truck full of cash.
I want a dump truck full of cash driven to my house at some point.
It was like, John, you want to come live over here? But I heard his family lives in LA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That Memo's family is gonna live in Los Angeles, and his contracts with America is gonna expire, I think, after the World Cup. So 2022, and who knows? He might end up playing in an LA team at least for a year or two. Goalies could play. We're all into their 40s, so
it's true. I mean, Conejo Perez played, well into his 70s. So I mean, there's
Conejo Solis Rex.
Yeah, exactly. You are exactly correct. Yeah. So I think that should just about wrap it up there, Joel. We've gone over a lot of topics here on the CantinaMX podcast. We talked Chivas, we talked Santos, we talked Toluca, we talked America. We talked a little. We talked Querétaro.
We missed something, John, and I can't believe we missed it.
What did we miss?
Is this your way of calling Tigres an equipo chico? We just had Gignac.
Oh, you're right.
Become the all-time leading goal scorer for the Tigers. He had 105, and they did him a big ceremony right there at the volcano. They had a mariachi playing "Sigo Siendo el Rey."
No, but not only went by there, 105 mariachis. One for every goal. One for every goal. Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah,
and the fans did like a big French flag in the stands.
And how did Gignac respond, Joel?
With a hat trick
in the first 20 minutes of the game. Scored a hat trick.
Well, yeah. Imagine before I go to work, I can walk them like that. I would probably perform well for 20 minutes. I'm lucky there's free donuts, man. All stale. But anyways, so Tigres has their hero in Gignac, and this is, well, is this Tuca's last season, or is he going into 2020?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I think his contract expires in 20, so I guess it would be the end of next season. Will be his last. This could be it.
Yeah, and they interviewed Boy about it, because Thomas Boy had the previous record, and he was very classy about it.
Right.
Yeah, he said he could have probably scored a bit more goals, because he said that he missed, because of the World Cup, they took him out for the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
So he said he missed that 1 year, and that another year he spent lesionado. But he's like, you know what, that's just speculations, and he was just talking about how great of a player. He was very classy. He was actually very classy, given that scuffle they had in match week 1 between Gignac and Boy. That's Boy gets suspended.
It took Gignac out of his game, so it worked.
It did.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, that's the dark arts, man. That's the colmillo.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you, man. Tomás Boy is as you pointed out, they don't call him El Jefe because he tended to a rose garden. He takes command. He does whatever it takes to get the results.
That he does.
He is well versed in the dark arts. Oh, probably time for us to wrap it up.
Yeah, it is. It is now. We hit Tigres now, which was missing.
We did, and I kind of like these Sunday night shows. I think everything's kind of fresh in your mind, and we can do a wrap up, and then if things we have to preview, we can get into that. And the one thing I do miss about doing the Thursday shows is we always get the lavandera stuff during the week. So
that's true. That's when the chismes are in full swing.
That's kind of the trade-off there. So we'll have to.
I don't have any chismes right now.
Well, yeah, exactly. There's no chismes to have because we're missing out on 4 days worth of chisme generation.
Yeah.
When we have a podcast on Sunday nights, we can talk about the games, and really, who wants to hear about that?
I don't mind a little bit.
Yeah, no, of course we're just playing around here in the CantinaMX podcast. Any final thoughts, Joel, before we say goodbye?
No, not really, sir. It should be another interesting week coming in, but we'll see how that plays off.
Yeah, and then in about 2 weeks we're gonna get another list from Tata. So we'll see if Cheech and Corona and Ekman and all.
Gio, you mean? They're saying that Gio might be the new addition or the returning edition.
Well, Giovanni had a spectacular game last week, coming on as a sub, where we got to play a half at the Azteca, which I think is, good for him. And he had a really good assist and a goal. I was another thing before we wrap it up, just real quickly. Joel, you mentioned Giovanni. Has there been another Mexican player who has been as good a counterattacker as Giovanni is?
I would say no. I mean, you did have Ramon Ramirez.
But how many times did Giovanni just serve up just a perfect pass for someone to cerrar la pinza at an open net? I mean, that is Giovanni's specialty.
It's true.
I mean, his layoffs are just impeccable. Just a terrific counterattacker, and has been throughout his. I mean, those 2 goals he scored in Costa Rica he didn't score them. Franco and Guardado scored, but I mean, those were Giovanni's goals. Just a tremendous. So I would love to see if Giovanni does come into the fold with Tata, if Tata can exploit that from Giovanni a little bit, because Tata's he's okay with counterattack too.
Yes, he is.
So, well, Joel, we'll have a good week, and we will be on again at some point in the near future here on the CantinaMX podcast. And again, we'll try and figure out a way to get back on the live stream, but we're trying to figure that out as we go on in this crazy new world that we're living in. Anyway, my name is John Jagu for Joel Aceves and everyone else here in the CantinaMX podcast. I bid you all good evening, and we will talk to you again next time.